We also went to PAX East, 2026.
Ever heard of it?
It's a convention
I've heard of it. Yes,
takes place in Boston every year. You know, it used to be every year in March, but then it went to May and then went back to March, and now it's going to April. You know, because they keep hitting other like things like GDC, and you know, then other developers just don't want to show up. It's
geez.
I'm not gonna lie. I think PAX East is having a little bit of an existential crisis itself.
A little bit, yeah. I'm hoping maybe it was just kind of an off year, but
Explain.
There was almost no big vendors this year at PAX East. Nintendo was the only one that really showed up of like the major publishers. Before, you would at least get some other bigger people, like Larian might jump in, or Devolver Digital would probably show up.
Devolver was missing. I was kind of shocked.
That's actually shocking.
Yep.
They're usually a big presence there, I feel.
Exactly.
Square? Was Square there at all?
No.
Nope.
They
That's the
weren't even
thing.
there showcasing in the side rooms, which they sometimes do.
Yeah, and like, listen, I'm a huge fan of indies, right? Like, I sometimes prefer them, but at the same time, like, it's still noticeable when there is at least a few big players dotted throughout. Like, I think, like, other than Nintendo, the Capcom, I think, Bandai was it
Bandai
first?
Namco was at West.
Yep. So it's that, even though the show floor felt super busy like Saturday and stuff, I don't know, like I got mixed messages when talking to certain vendors and booths about the turnout, and then just the talk amongst the press people. Like, we're not really quite sure if East is going to continue maybe a decade from now. It is the smaller of the two. Tabletop seems to have a much stronger presence. I don't know. Like, that's just stuff I hear.
Didn't East just come up with an end game? Is that the series, or is that the Trails series?
Trails.
One of those two came up with where like 2032 was going to be the last game in the series. Okay, it was Trails.
Yep. But East, like, I was talking to a lot of the vendors there as well, and because the big guys weren't there, that made their spaces more expensive, because usually the big guys were offset the cost. That East, like, my guess is they, like, when ReedPop comes up with these conventions, they have a set amount of price, you know, that they want to get for tickets, or like for vendor space. So the big guys will usually end up paying more for their spaces, and that would make the smaller ones pay a little bit less for their booths. However, because the big guys aren't around, the smaller guys are actually paying a little bit more than what some of them can even afford. But if the big guys also isn't bringing the turnout in, because obviously a lot of people will jump in for Nintendo, for Capcom, you know, for those bigger titles. If they're not showing up, then that's going to hurt the attendance as well. And then the smaller guys won't even be able to come, because they're not going to win over that exposure that they need. So East, in my opinion, needs to look at something. Otherwise, they're going to struggle here in the next 5 years.
Shoot, probably sooner than that. Does the West one come up with a little bit more?
I believe so.
Is the attendance bigger in that one?
Yes.
Yes, it's bigger. Attendance is better. I feel like the bigger companies, I don't know if it's by proximity. I'm not really quite sure, but
I feel proximity helps them a lot, because like Nintendo themselves can bring out their A stuff. My guess is because they don't have to be super secure, or like they don't have to worry about traveling with like prototypes and stuff, because Nintendo really likes to have those under lock and key.
Right.
But also, I think it's also like storage and rental. Since the bigger guys are already in Washington, they have their own stuff that they can bring to these shows. Whereas people who are going to PAX East, most of them have to rent equipment like computers and like booth stuff, and able to assemble their like booths, and then they just bring their software. Whereas West, they could have those things in like either their buildings, or maybe they have storage units that are more closer in proximity to their place of business.
yeah, I mean, I don't see it as like next year it'll vanish like it did E3, and I really hope I'm wrong, you know?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But
I still miss E3. I don't know. I don't know. I know that the era that we live in now is different than what it was like 20 years ago, but I mean, E3 time, that summertime was a magical time.
Yeah.
It was.